Hello, and welcome to Let's Play Legend of Dragoon, Episode 3. Pacing is one of those things that, whether any kind of media, whether it's novels or movies or video games, that is an essential part of what goes into the experience that you're cultivating. But at the same time, it's one of those things that often gets overlooked. Whether you're editing together a movie or in this case, doing a level design, what you need, you know, is the most effective way to do that is to not just have, peaks, but also, slower moments. So, let's look at Legend of Dragoon here, where, we had our big splashy opening, we had the, special, special effects, we had, an attack on town, so Dart is, fought a bunch of soldiers. Then, we kind of slow things back down as he went through, kind of the tutorial for us so you could get a feel for the controls, the battle system, and whatnot. And then, we had our first dungeon, in the deep, dark, dungeon, torture-y, Alcatraz-y land, and, with our first boss fight. And so now we've, gotten out of there. And so here, it has, a chance to breathe, slow it back down. We have a goal we're reaching towards, which is to get back to the capital. So Lavitz, as the head of a knighthood, can do his thing, get Shannon to some kind of safety, and, so Dart can, not have to worry. But at the same time, that is a, ordeal in itself. So, they have troops chasing them. Logically in this time period, they would have archers, and just to help kind of fill out these characters, and so that they're not perfect super beings, is to have one of them get a little hurt, which makes perfectly logical sense. And plus it gives you an excuse to then slow the narrative down while he has to take a little while to recover, so that you can then, get some of the exposition out and get some character development going for, your people, which in modern video games, it unfortunately this is seen as kind of a bad thing, or it's, not really done as well these days, especially, with Final Fantasy 13 and Lightning Returns and the Altair series, which aren't real good on trying to have ups and downs into their gameplay, so that it isn't just a monotonous same thing constantly, which this Legend of Dragoon does a good job of breaking that up. It's not just mad dashes through dungeons. It has slower moments that you just let the characters talk to each other and get to know each other. Shannon, as kind of your white mage, has a chance to show that even before she gets her magic, she does have something to contribute to this group, that and shows what her character's thought process was, because she knew Dart was out there doing crazy things, on wacky adventures, having hijinks and whatnot, that she would like to join him at some point. So the best way that she could do that, to help facilitate that, would be to get some kind of skills. So she would learn how to fight with a bow, with an archer, which makes sense with the time period. She goes all Hunger Games with it. Oh, I'm not sorry, not Hunger Games, Hunger Games with it. Trying to get a little Candace Everdeen action going, and then combine that with some healing, and so that she could complement Dart in his endeavors, because the story that he's telling Lavitz right now, she already knows it. She knows what he's chasing, and so it makes sense of why she is kind of pushing herself to come up to Dart's level. And so, once we, see that he's chasing this horrible city busting monster, that, yeah, he probably could use a healer to keep him going if he's ever going to actually find this thing. And so, right now we're looking at, the backstory, the tragedy, that kind of went into making, Dart, the person that he is. Explains where his, memento, where the Dragoon spirit comes from, which his father apparently has, at some point, which in a video game, it could be, logical that, this unbreakable, valuable relic, just bounced around through history for a while and ended up there by, chance. It doesn't necessarily mean that Dart's father has, that he's 11,000 years old and going to be possessed by, this world's version of the Emperor of, of Emperor Palpatine, which is Emperor. I don't know how to pronounce his wiggly name, but so this is effective. It doesn't give away too much, but it's still, if you look at the shape of the Black Monster, you can already see, in an early way that, yeah, that does look like a Dragoon. It has, the big flowing wings with arms still out, but it's in such a close cropped silhouette that, you can't really tell, much more than that. Nor, especially at this point in the game, if it's on your first playthrough, you don't know, what a Dragoon, really looks like other than the box art. So, what it looks like in-game, in-universe, is still a mystery that's up in the air. So, that's a really well done, way to put foreshadowing in there into, what, logically will be revealed later, which is that was Rose, and she had, perfectly legitimate reasons to do all this, but at the same time, because the viewpoint is, a relatively unreliable narrator of a 5-year-old child seeing his parents die, and then 18 years of mythologizing and, reinterpreting it. And if you've seen anything about, the modern research on memory, you would know that, memories can change quite a bit, over time as we constantly re-access, parts of our brain like that. So, putting all those things together, this actually, flows very well and, and puts, very good things, going forward through it. And, allows, Lavitz to, hear it for the first time. So there's an in-universe reason that we are explaining all of this one time. And, more importantly, it explains why, other characters don't know it, don't understand it, because we're only going to go through it the one time. And so, repeating it, would be tedious for us on the outside, but also at the same time, there's not a moment like this that, comes up again, because, Shannon, knows this, and Lavitz knows this, and once we get to Bale, there's, plenty of reasons to be, adventuring and on a journey anyway. So this is the only time that, that question would logically come up as to, why Dart was already, adventuring. And, so this whole thing just has a, really nice flow to me, and, makes, logical sense, in my brain as to, why it's here, why it's unfolding this way, and, how it proceeds. And, the other thing about pacing is, figuring out ways to have, relatively simple puzzles, early on that you can be able to, take and and improve upon and make them, more challenging later. So, in this little area, it's just a, relatively simple problem of trying to cross a river, which is not, you know, the most hazardous, hardest to get, control thing, in the world, but it is something that, especially for the time period of, a faux medieval, feeling type place, that it would need to be, a definite concern. And so, you need to try to find, some way, across the river. So, just a simple, tree and an axe, makes, at least a little bit of sense of, I mean, yeah, it would be nice if, characters could, change weapon types in this game. So Dart has, mastery of swords and axes and, a couple of different things, but, it's not that kind, it's not that kind of game. It's not even, that kind of RPG. So, you know, while I wish that there was, a couple, different weapon types, for each person, I understand, why they didn't do that, which, you'd have to try to come up with, additions for each type of weapon type, and that would be, exceedingly difficult for both, you and, the programmer of, trying to memorize even more of those combos, even, trying to come up with a logical fighting style for, each of those weapons. And so it, would become, quite bothersome, and, really bog the game down. So, while I wish that we could have a sword and axe wielding Dart, I understand why we can't. And so, this is what I was, saying about the puzzle. Of, here it's relatively simple of just, you find an axe, you find a tree, and you just chop it down, and it, lands where it needs to land. You know, so it'll set up, things later where you have to, think about puzzles, you have to think about, items, you have to think about, how you're going to get around. So that's a very, good, handy way to, start that tone off with nothing too complicated, but still at the same time, it'll become more important later of how, to navigate this world. So, next time, we're going to look at when they go through the cave, which is what we're coming up on, towards, we're going to, get a chance to see, Shannon's, hidden powers, and then, we'll be able to go see the magical land of Bale. So, join us next time, and, we'll have more fun playing Legend of Dragoon. Which, okay, well, one more thing before we go is, I do like this little scene here where, we set up that, Lavitz is, helping civilians that were displaced by the war. And just, again, it adds to that layer of humanity that they had permeating throughout, most of these characters and made them much more three-dimensional in that way. So, that's just another, little thing to look at. And, so, thank you, and I'll see you next time.